You might think that electric cars are a new concept due to all the new electric cars in the world, but you may be surprised to find that electric cars aren't a new concept. The first automobiles actually ran on steam and electricity. The first vehicles were created in the late 1970s. Those early vehicles were propelled by steam. It was a type of energy that had been used to power trains for many years. However, steam power was not practical for small vehicles until the 1970s. Despite progress, there were still numerous flaws. Steam-powered vehicles took a long time to start up and had limited range. Inventors all over the world began creating electric-powered buggies in the early 1800s. Several decades later, inventors in England and France developed vehicles that were very similar to modern-day EVs. In 1890, William Morrison built the first electric car in the US. The car had a top speed of 14 miles per hour and a seating capacity of 6 people. It was very basic, but it sparked interest in America. Within the next 10 years, 1/3 of all vehicles in the United States would be electric. Electric vehicles were popular because they were easier to start than steam and gas combustion engines and did not require difficult gear shifts. The first EVs, like today, were quiet and did not emit odorous air pollution. Meanwhile, Ferdinand Porsche did something revolutionary in 1898. He invented the first hybrid vehicle that ran on both electricity and gasoline. It was a blueprint for the hybrids that would be constructed more than a century later. While some of the very first cars were powered by steam engines dating back to the 1700s, it was Carl Benz who invented the first gas-powered car in 1885, which he later received a patent for in 1886. Benz's first car had 3 wheels, looked much like an elongated tricycle, and seated 2 people. 4-wheeled gas-powered cars were later introduced in 1891. The invention of the gasoline-powered automobile marked the beginning of America's vehicular evolution. First cars didn't have windshields, doors, turn signals, or even a round steering wheel, a far cry from what we've become accustomed to. It can be said that Carl Benz's first gas-powered car was the major catalyst for the production of modern automobiles, as many automakers followed in his footsteps, trying to create their own version of a car. At the time, electric vehicles were on their way to becoming the norm. However, there was one issue with early electric vehicles. People wanted to own them, but the elaborate machines were too expensive for the middle class. Automobiles did not begin to resemble what we know today until Henry Ford's 1908 Model T. Henry Ford invented the assembly line, which allowed the gas-powered Model T to be mass-produced and made affordable to the general public. Ford had been working with Thomas Edison to develop a better battery for electric vehicles, but the success of the low-cost Model T slowed progress. The invention of the electric starter in 1912 was another factor. It did away with the need for hand-cranked gas-powered vehicles. Sales of gas-powered vehicles skyrocketed after oil was discovered in Texas and gasoline became affordable. Today, the opposite is true. The high cost of gasoline combined with environmental concerns has aided the revival of electric vehicles, and Edison would be pleased to note that the most recent EVs have batteries capable of traveling up to 400 miles. With mass production came new features such as speedometers, seat belts, windshields, and rear-view mirrors. Believe it or not, the first turn signals were added to a car in 1939, after the first car with electric windows and air conditioning. Then came power steering in 1951, cruise control in 1957, 3-point seat belts on 1959, and heated seats on 1966. Oldsmobile installed the first passenger airbag in their Tornado model in 1973. Over 20 years later, in 1996, the federal government mandated that all passenger vehicles include dual frontal airbags as standard equipment. Keyless entry systems, electric doors and windows, sunroofs, and CD players became standard features in the late 1980s and early 1990s. A Around this time, technology became a major selling point. This brings us to today's cars, which have Bluetooth, hard drives, advanced safety systems, GPS, Wi-Fi, and can even parallel park themselves. It may seem absurd, but it is true. Cars nowadays come standard with features that were once considered a luxury or did not exist at all. Driverless cars, which once seemed like it's something out of a science fiction film, are on the verge of becoming a reality. It's incredible to consider how far automobiles have progressed and where technology will go in the future. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next video.